Hello again, future students. So this video is going to probably be a bit longer because the illusion cards seem to be a little bit more of a challenge for students. And so we're going to go through why we're having you do illusion cards, as well as how to do an illusion card and what's all involved in that. So starting off, if you don't know, I like to say that an illusion is an indirect reference to something specific. So Google here has their definition as an expression designed to call something to the mind without mentioning it explicitly or to explain, right? To explain it. An indirect reference or passing reference. So that can be kind of complicated. And I feel like you guys in our society, we have illusions all over the place. We allude to things all the time. And so when we talk about it in these complicated texts, you get a little bit worried and concerned and confused, where it's something that you do all the time in life. And so maybe some examples can be helpful to you. So first example, what's the big deal with social distancing? Been doing it for years. So this is an allusion to the coronavirus, right? Back in March 2020, when we all stayed home, we didn't go out, we social distanced 6 feet between people so that we weren't passing along the coronavirus, we weren't catching it, or we weren't getting it and passing it to somebody else. Okay. Example 2, The Simpsons. Often, lots of TV shows often allude to things. And so this one happens to be Lisa Simpson. And it's a reference, an indirect reference, right? An allusion to Alice in Wonderland, if you didn't pick that one up. Our last example, let's see if you can get this one. This is an allusion, a reference, an image that is alluding to the Deathly Hallows from Harry Potter, right? So you have the invisibility cloak, you have the resurrection stone, and you have the elder wand, all in that symbol. And it is from the last book of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Okay, so now we have a little bit of an idea about illusions and how often we see them, which is all the time. There's a really big problem with illusions. And so the issue is if you don't have the background knowledge to understand that illusion, you're going to miss the meaning of it completely when it's being used in a text or in a TV show or in life, right? And so that can be a really big problem when we don't know that we're missing an illusion because we don't have the information to recognize that it is an illusion. And so this is how and why we're asking you to create illusion cards. They are here to help you to start building that background knowledge, to start making sense and be able to recognize illusions when we see them in the things that we're reading. So Mr. Carpenter and I have gone through the list of reading we're going to be doing in the upcoming year, and we've pulled out some of the things that are being alluded to in those texts so that you can start to build that background knowledge. So the list of illusion cards you have, we're going to continue adding to it over the year, but it will get you started with especially illusions in Oedipus. And we're going to read Antigone and all the other things that we're going to read in the upcoming year, and especially the upcoming semester. Okay, so illusion cards are really important to create. A couple of tips before we do one together is, first off, take your time. Don't try and do them all at once or even in just a couple of days. Maybe only give yourself maybe only do 1 or 2 at a time in a day. And that's because you want to make sure you remember the information as much as possible, right? These cards are meant to be just a quick reference for you throughout the year, but you want to see if you can really start to get that information in your head so that you can recognize it when you see it. When you see the best laid plans of mice and men, you can remember, oh yeah, I did that illusion card and I think it's vaguely about something, so that you can come back to the illusion card, pull it, read through it, understand what it is really talking about. So take your time with these. If you rush them, they're all going to get jumbled up in your head, and that's not anything that you want to have happen. Okay, you also want to read multiple sources before writing your card. We gave you a couple of sources to help you out, but we want you to also continue building that. We want to make sure that, or you want to make sure that you're information is reliable. Some of these sources are religious based, and religions vary, right? So if you look at one source that's based on one religion, you might get one interpretation versus another. And so this is why we want to look at multiple sources to make sure that the information we're getting is true across the board and that we're finding those more reliable resources. Okay, last tip is write your illusion card in your own words. This is again going to help make sure that that information stays in your brain a little bit longer. If all you're doing is copying from another source onto your card, it's just kind of going in your eyeballs and out your hand. There's not a lot of brain work happening there to process through it. So you want to make sure that if you're putting it in your own words, it really does help form up those ideas into your own into your mind and help you remember them for longer. And then lastly, this isn't on here, but I get that question a lot of, why are you making us handwrite these? Can't we just type them? It would be so much easier. Yes, it would be easier. However, there's studies that prove handwriting your notes not only helps you remember it longer, but it helps you have a better or stronger understanding of the material that you're taking notes on. So unfortunately, we are going to require still that you handwrite them, even though technology and we live in the 21st century and everyone has pretty easy access to that kind of stuff. But handwriting is really important. Okay, let's do an illusion card together. All right, so here I have my summer reading assignment, the Google Doc. I'm going to scroll through it. I'm going to find where it gives me the list of illusion cards, and it does talk about here stories versus other illusions, and we've color-coded them for you. So all the blue ones are stories. All the orange or the yellowish looking ones are considered other illusions, and that means that they could be a person, they could be a quote, they could be a short story or a text or a something. So lots of different types of things that could be alluded to. And so if we're looking at this list and we know some general grammar rules, that can help us, right? So here we have two quotes. There but for the grace of God go I, pride cometh before the fall. They have quotes around them. We know they're quotes. Easy peasy. Here we have Leaves of Grass, Walt Whitman, Walden, by David Henry Thoreau. Those are in italics. They tell me that is a text, a book. So I know what I might be looking for. Coming down here, I have another book, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And then there's this Beelzebub that's got nothing. So maybe it's a person, maybe it's a title, maybe it's a something else. I don't know. I'm going to have to look that up. I'll give you a hint. I don't know if I would say person, but some sort of a being might help you out with that one. But you're going to have to look that one up. Okay, so let's do one together. Let's do Pride Cometh Before the Fall. So I'm going to copy that quote, and because you read through your document completely, you know that there's a resource already provided to you by Mr. Carpenter and I. So I'm going to pull up that resource. I'm going to use the search bar to try and find the quote that I'm looking for and hoping to get information from. I'm going to just paste this in. Maybe I'll get rid of my quotes just in case. I'm going to hit search. And here I have the information that I need to get started on understanding this quote about pride cometh before the fall. And so it's going to give me what it means, that a lot of times it's pride that happens right before failure or loss. And then it's going to give me the origin. So then I can start to read through and learn about that information. I'm going to read through the entire resource before moving on. And I know that this is a reliable resource because the teachers, Mr. Carpenter and I, gave this to you. However, I'm still going to open another tab and just Google search for Pride Cometh Before the Fall and see what else comes up. So here I have the free dictionary gives me a resource, so I might read through that one just to see if I'm finding any more information or anything different than my previous source or sources. Hit the back button. Maybe I'm going to look for just one more. I'm really looking to see if I can find a source that I recognize. This one that's a WordPress. It's just anyone can have that kind of website, so I'm not too sure about that one. So I'm just going to kind of keep looking through and just do what I can to see if I can find another reliable source. And the other thing that I can do, because I know about this quote a little bit, is I can change pride cometh to pride comes before the fall and see if that changes anything. And here I have Schmoop, which I also know is sometimes a helpful source for students. So I'm going to take a look and see what they have to say about it. So now I'm going to go back to my summer document and I'm going to start to write my Allusion card. I write them on index cards, but you can write them on anything that you can make sure that you keep for the rest of the school year and that you can add to for the rest of the school year. So if you're doing them in a notebook, might be best to leave that notebook as your Allusion card notebook and not add to it with notes from class or anything like that. If you're doing them in an index card, make sure that you have them in a baggie or you have them somehow protected so that if you are carrying them around with you all the time, that they'll be safe and well protected, because it's a lot of work that you don't want to mess up. Now that I've written my index card, here's what it looks like. And I'm ready to move on to my next one. So take your time with these, and always, if you have any questions or concerns, please make sure you reach out to ask those questions.